So right now, I'm sitting in Dublin in a fine establishment, sipping a cool pint of Guinness and enjoying my life. So earlier this week, aka right now, I recorded this video you're about to see. It's a Q&A, which stands for questions and answers. Well done if you worked that out. Sent in by all you wonderful people. It's the international break, everyone, so anything goes. Previously, when doing these videos, I've made them quite structured, so we'd maybe have like a section for Celtic questions and 67 Hail questions and maybe even personal questions. This time, we're going to just make it a bit of a free-for-all. So I've condensed a lot of your questions to make them snappy, quick-fire ones. Some of you will appear more than once, so don't take offence if your question doesn't resemble the thing you sent in to me. Let's get the background music going then. Thank you. We actually used to have background music on every 67 Hail video. Long time fans of the channel will remember that. Not anymore, but we've got it going for today's video. And let's get to the first question. So 67 Hail is a full-time endeavour. God, that was a fancy way to kick it off. Endeavour. I could have said just job, but I went for endeavour. We are fortunate that we've got the fan base both on the website 67hailhail.com and here to make it viable. In terms of the YouTube, this is what I do. This is my job. I work most days of my life doing this, but I enjoy doing it. I just love it. I've never enjoyed a job so much in my life, and I know how fortunate I am to be able to be doing this. The rest of the guys, like John, Ewan, David, are primarily writers over at 67hailhail.com, and they help out here on the channel, as you know. Stevie and Asim are both different in that they have other full-time jobs. They just contribute to the channel in their spare time, but they are just as valuable as anyone else. So that's the situation with the channel. For me, in terms of young players, it all comes down to opportunities and giving them a platform to play for Celtic. And I think, you know, this isn't unique to Celtic, but I just think the pressure of playing for Celtic and having to win every week, and it just seems like, you know, maybe this is recency bias, but it seems like over the last few years, like the pressure is just more than ever playing for Celtic. I don't know exactly why that is, because Celtic have always had to win. But this season, for example, I know Ange's thrown in, you know, the likes of Ben Doak for a couple of games off the bench. Karamoko Dembele's played a couple off the bench. At the start of the season, he was forced to play. Some players, Joey Dawson's another guy who's played, Owen Moffat, the cup final, etc. So there have been instances of that. But in terms of giving young players the platform to go and make a career at Celtic by giving them, say, you know, half a dozen starts in a row, unless they're exceptionally talented, I don't think we're going to see that. And to be fair, rarely in the past have players come in from the youth sides and taken to it straight away. Kieran Tierney is probably the only obvious example I can think of a player who came in right away and effectively didn't lose his place at left back until he left the club for Arsenal. James Forrest, you know, has been a consistent Celtic player for the last almost a decade and a half, but it took him a little bit of time to become that starter. Even someone like Callum McGregor, you know, went through a phase of you know, being a bit of a flop and a dud at Celtic. It's hard to imagine that now. But, you know, in those Ronnie Dyler days, after that initial, you know, start he made to life as a Celtic, a first-team Celtic player. Anthony Ralston, another one, you know, a really tough start to his Celtic career. But now, look at him. So, I think, you know, these players are few and far between. I think Celtic can definitely do more to help young players. I don't think the system in Scotland is particularly great either. I'm not sure that just playing against Lowland League players will cut it for Celtic. I think it was a good idea in general, but I think you have to have a mix of Celtic being able to play against the leading young players down south as well. I'd love to see like a Scotland-England Super League for these young players. Something like that would be great, but I suppose down south they don't really need it as much as we do. That's my thoughts on it anyway. This is meant to be a quick fire thing, and I've spent about 3 minutes chatting there with your answer. Right, let's batter through these or I'll be here all day. In terms of this, assuming we keep all of our players and bring in Carter Vickers and Jota permanently, I think left back is the obvious position Celtic need to strengthen in the summer. I don't think that answer is going to surprise you. I think that's pretty clear. If you pay £10 per month, you can actually adopt John, and what I'm saying is completely true. So I'll just fire over the bank details and you can do that. So John writes a weekly Willie column for Optus Sport. That's the whole link there. It's on their website. He posts about it on his Twitter. It's on the Optus Sport Twitter regularly as well. It's just his weekly thoughts on where Celtic are and what's to come. And if you enjoy listening to John on the channel, maybe there's one or two of you out there who enjoy listening to John, you'll certainly enjoy reading this stuff as well. And I've linked the current one, this week's one, down below. So give it a read because John's pretty good. Well guys, I suppose I'm a little bit like Ange in the respect that I've actually not really thought too much about, where the channel will be in 10 years, 5 years, even really in 1 year. I had a wee think when you asked the question, because I genuinely, when we're doing the channel and obviously, looking at the schedule, it's usually a weekly schedule or a fortnightly schedule. And then every Monday or every second Monday, I'll look at what's to come. I'll look at the guests we could get on. I'll look at, Jackie, Scott, what matches Celtic have got coming up. I don't really look anything, further, ahead than that. Certainly not, a decade ahead. We do want to keep moving forward with the channel because, as our wonderful leader Ange says, if you're not moving forward, you're moving backwards. I'd love to do some really professional content on the channel. I'd love to do like a professional documentary that people could watch, funnily enough, with it being a documentary. Something really, really professional with interviews and, analysis and stuff like that. Watch this space in that. Maybe if things go well before the end of the season, we might have something for you over the summer. I'd love to do more interviews in person if possible. Really want to ramp up the in-person content because, the stuff we do online I think is great. But I know, you people really want to see people in the same room chat, and that's why we try and go the extra effort to the pub and stuff like that. Basically, I want to become the go-to for every Celtic fan, regardless of age, gender. It's going to be tough because there's so much competition. You've got Ryan118, Celtic Fans TV, A Celtic State of Mind, numerous others, and that's only on YouTube. There's so many other podcasts as well. So there's a lot of competition on Celtic internet, but we're happy to set the bar high. And as long as we've got people, following the channel like all of you wonderful people do, and maybe more people joining over the coming years, then we'll continue to do this. Right, this is going to shock you, but it's actually a blue screen. And I've picked a bad day to show you this because I'm not actually wearing green. But my issue was that when I had a green screen, I couldn't wear green at all because the background would then go onto the green on like a Celtic shirt, for example. So I turned it into the blue screen behind me, and that means I can wear green stuff. The thing I've learned about green screens or blue screens is it's all in the lighting, and natural light, sunlight, which is hard to find in Scotland, is the most obvious thing. Now, just briefly, for one of these videos, the solo videos I call them, the process is write a sheet with all the details and notes on it, usually Google Docs, record the video like I am now, then edit the video and publish the video. From start to finish for one of these videos, I'm usually talking from anything from 4 to 6 hours, obviously depending on how long the videos are. Live videos are much easier to do because they don't require editing, because they're just live, so I enjoy doing them as well. But hopefully that's given you a wee insight into what goes on. I just fire into my wardrobe, mate, just like anyone else. There's not really much of a science to it. I do try and keep things as fresh as possible, so like I don't want to wear the same top 2 days in a row, but there's not really much kind of science to it. So I've been thinking about this a lot, I'm going to go for something in my lifetime, because if I wasn't on the planet, then it wouldn't make much sense. Although I get that the question's probably asking for, for a Celtic game in any time frame. The 6-2 win over Rangers always holds a lot of appeal, because my dad, who'll be watching this, talks so highly about that game. But having said that, I have seen Celtic demolish Rangers several times. I've seen Celtic beat Rangers 5-0 to win the league. So I don't feel as if that I would see anything, in that game that I've not seen before, put it that way, as much as that is probably the pinnacle of victories over Rangers for everything it went with. Equally, I've seen Celtic beat Barcelona, Man United, AC Milan, numerous other big teams as well. So I'm not sure I'm missing anything there either. I wouldn't really choose Juventus, for example, because of that, because I think Barcelona eclipses it. Possibly winning the league at Tannadice in 2008 on that Thursday night. I would have loved to be there. Quite possibly Seville. Just seeing Celtic in a European final is something that you'll probably do once in your lifetime, maybe twice, if you're lucky. I'm going to go for Seville for the experience, obviously not for the match itself, for the whole experience of being in Spain with all those Celtic fans. I think 80,000 went over to Seville. Incredible support that we'll never see again. I'm just realising that I picked a defeat when I had any choice of a Celtic game. How long have you got, genuinely? I'll try and make this as concise as possible. Celtic and Rangers for me are potentially the greatest rivals in football, maybe even sport. Unless you live in this country every day and live this rivalry, it's hard to explain the level of animosity between Celtic and Rangers. It's just everywhere. You go out to the shops and for some reason it's in the back of your mind. Who do they support? And it's probably not right that it takes over your life to that extent, but nights out, do I need to watch where I'm going, what kind of pub am I going to, who am I going to be out with? Obviously football itself, it's just absolutely everywhere in this country. And as I say, unless you live in Scotland or have lived in Scotland, it's hard to explain that. I won't hide it. I don't like Rangers very much. I don't like what they stand for. I don't like how their fans go on in general. I do have Rangers supporting pals and family, but in general I don't have a lot of love for that club at all, and that's putting it lightly. I'm sure that's not going to offend them. They feel the exact same way about me. We shouldn't be playing friendlies against Rangers at all. It just shouldn't be happening. It's against everything this fixture tries to be. It's against everything that makes this fixture good. And that's the main reason, I think, just quite simply. Nothing against us going over to Australia, playing matches in Australia. I think that's an incredible idea. I honestly do, and I'm not just saying that. Rangers, for me, are the problem, as they often are. We have spoken about it a little bit. We'll see how things play out over the next few months or so. It's a mega commitment, that's all I'm going to say. I paraphrased that question a fair bit, TD. I am a big Scotland fan. It maybe doesn't come across when I, insert those digs at international football. It's more that international football doesn't include Celtic and we have to take a break from Celtic for a couple of weeks rather than it actually being against international football. I love World Cups. I love Euros. I love watching Scotland. I'm actually a big Scotland fan. I've been to basically all the Scotland games over the last couple of years, or certainly since the COVID pandemic, since we could get back to matches. The big issue with this international break is that Scotland were meant to have a World Cup playoff against Ukraine. That match isn't happening due to the conflict going on in that country. So Scotland have been left with a couple of friendlies. And a couple of friendlies at this stage of Celtic's season feels like a bit of a drag. I think he might be on the bench. He might come on. I actually don't think we need Kyogo to beat Rangers. I think we can beat him without him. And I actually don't think that Kyogo should start the game, even if he's fully fit. Right, again, how long have you got? I love Indian, really love Indian. Not as fond of Chinese, we'll still eat it, but it's not on the same level as Indian. Fish and chips, love fish and chips, don't have it nearly often enough. I'm going to go down the pizza route though, for the simple reason that pizza includes cheese and the other three that I've already mentioned don't. So that's my reasoning there. I'm going to assume you mean derby in Scotland. It's crazy I have to even clarify that at this stage. Tickets are like gold dust. You won't be surprised to hear that at all. Getting a ticket to the away end at Ibrox right now is practically impossible. It used to be difficult when we get 7,000 fans. Now we've only got 700, or even if we get 700, it's practically impossible. Home games are easier than ever because there are more home fans with them having a reduced away allocation. But you do need a season ticket holder to buy one for you at this stage. So if you know someone and you have them on the lookout, you've got half a chance, but it's very difficult. That's us, everyone. That's all I've got time for anyway. Sorry if I didn't manage to get your question in. Don't take it personally at all. Just something a little bit different today. I've probably had a couple of Guinness in the time you've watched this video, so hopefully future Hamish is enjoying himself. We've got far more to come next week on the channel. We're going to be gearing up for the game against Rangers with interviews. We'll get Scott McDonald back. We'll have loads of big previews, a big preview, a live one as well. There's loads happening. Thanks for tuning in. Have a good weekend, everyone. Have a peaceful weekend, because it's all about to kick off very soon.